I think people have this opinion that it's illegal to landlock stuff in Idaho. Well, that's one of the biggest things that I have to work through in land and easements. But if you bought it without it having legal access, you're on your own. How do we fix these things? Hey everybody, Jamie Jenisic, Team North Idaho Home Hunter here, Keller Williams Coeur Real Estate. And this month we're going to be talking about, we're going to do a series of videos on land. One of the biggest things that I'm working through right now is land that shows lack of access. So you get a title report on it. The title company will not insure it because it shows lack of access. I don't know if you guys know, but a lot of the properties throughout northern Idaho, there's really old, ambiguous easements. Like what comes to mind, Mattawa Land Company, and a lot of stuff that was back in Bunker Hill and things up Latour Creek and all throughout the Coeur d'Alene River and even up into St. Mary's. There is a lot of property that is landlocked. I think people have this opinion that it's illegal to landlock stuff in Idaho. Well, obvious it's not, because that's one of the biggest things that I have to work through in land and easements. So what do you do? A lot of times what's interesting is people that I know that own land, they've owned land and it's been in the family for years, they have no idea that it doesn't show access. And the problem is, if the title company won't insure it, if you were to buy a piece of property and it did not have a legally recorded access into it, somebody would come in, whoever's property you're going to get to the property, they can come in and slap a gate up, and the title company is not on the hook for it. If they insure the property, they insure access, they'll actually come legally to help you fight it out if you're fighting with your neighbor over getting into the property. But if you bought it without it having legal access, you're on your own. How do we fix these things? I sold a big piece of property. It was 160 acres out along Highway 3 several years ago, and the neighbor was going to hold us hostage for an easement. They wanted us to pay about $45,000 for an easement. And I actually went down into the courthouse. It took me a couple of days, but I spent some time in the basement. I called it, I don't know, it was off one of those movies. It was like the books of the dead. There was these really old books. They're leather-bound books, big old books down in the bottom of the courthouse. And I dug through and I actually found on this road, it was actually Maida County Road in, I think it was 1912. And when that county road was established, to take them out, or to turn them back into not county, they actually have to walk through a process. So what I found out on this piece of property was Stimson had a gate on it. The county road property went at least a mile behind that gate. Stimson had put it on there on private property and had locked people out. It's still locked up. I like the elk hunting back there, so I don't say anything about it because I have other ways to get back in there. But there is a lot of property around here that's gated up, actually, that shouldn't be gated. A lot of the old properties they're on paper, but they're not transferred to digital. I think most of the stuff is digital now, so you should be able to find it, but I fixed that problem. It didn't cost my seller anything. Sometimes we have to hire an attorney to put an easement together for us, and then a lot of times Jesse and I will be door knocking the neighbors around a piece of property to talk to the neighbors to see if they'll sign the easement. And to be honest with you, most people are pretty reasonable. We sold a piece of property a couple years ago that was out off Smith Road, out at Hauser Lake, and one of the neighbors up there was just ornery. Every time we showed the property, they would pull their guns out. They were shooting right next to the property and trying to scare potential buyers off, and they refused to get us access to the power. And I just thought, how selfish is that? If you ever thought about it, if you have electricity at your house, how many hundreds or thousands of properties did that power line have to go through before it got to your house? And now all of a sudden you want to hold somebody up from getting power. I just think it's not neighborly. And tell you the truth, most people are reasonable about that. So that's something that we work through all the time. When the neighbors won't sign, and the property's landlocked, and you want to get into it, you have to hire an attorney and walk through prescriptive easement, and that can be super costly. It can be very emotional, and that's kind of as a last resort. We'd like to fix it the other way, see if we can dig back first in the title, find out easements that are in place that may not have got recorded properly, may have got missed, and then we can, like I say, we can work with neighbors to try to get access into it. And lastly, prescriptive easement. If you have landlocked property, does it mean it has no value? No, there's still value to that property, but what's going to happen is a lot of people that buy that piece of property, they're going to want to get it for pennies on the dollar. They're not going to want to pay whatever fair market value is. They're going to want to drop that price a little bit, and because they're the ones who are going to have to go back after the fact and fix that easement issue. I actually know some investors, they have come out really well. They have good contacts with big timber companies and things like that. And what they'll do is they'll buy obscure properties like that show lack of access. And then what they'll do is they'll trade them back and forth with timber companies. A lot of times as a last resort, Stimson, Inland Paper, Bennett, Potlatch, one of those big timber companies, they have lawyers on staff. Those guys know easements in and out, and they work together on pieces of land and access all the time. So even if you do have a piece that's landlocked and you're not sure what you can do with it, please give us a call. We'd love to help you fix it, and maybe it's a timber company that's your best buyer for that. We just don't know, but let's have a conversation about it. Give us a call.